Imagine you are a farmer living about 5,500 years ago. You have a fertile field, a few cattle, a cozy house, and a peaceful family. Your life is incredibly peaceful. There was no traffic jam, there were no crowded, narrow alleys, and certainly no smell of garbage wafting up from thousands of people living crowded together. But in the far horizon, a massive settlement begins to appear. Closely packed mud brick buildings, noisy markets, craft workshops, magnificent temples, and surging crowds. You are living in a place where food is only a few steps away from you. So why would you want to move to a place full of dust, noise, filled with strangers, and having to depend on hundreds of other people just to get a loaf of bread? The city seems like an inevitability to us modern people, because almost everyone today knows what a city is. But for most of the time humanity has existed, packing thousands of unrelated humans into the same place was truly an incredibly bizarre survival experiment. So, why did humans build cities? Before finding the answer, we must admit a truth. No one knows exactly what the first city was. You might have heard that Jericho or Uruk was the first city in the world. But the problem is, a large settlement does not automatically become a city. Archaeology cannot draw a single boundary line to judge where is the end point of a village and where is the starting point of a city. Look at Catalhoyuk around the 8th to the 6th millennium before Christ. Thousands of houses were built so closely together that residents had to walk on the roofs. It was an extremely crowded settlement, but it lacked the characteristics of later cities, such as a central government or clear streets. Massive settlements of humanity appeared long before fully developed urban systems. The city did not suddenly appear out of nowhere. It is the culmination of an experiment lasting thousands of years. That is, how many humans can live together before society is forced to completely change its structure? Many people think that humans invented agriculture, had plenty of food, and so they built cities. Agriculture did change the foundation of survival. Farming allowed for stable food production, long-term storage, and a population boom. Without a massive food source, feeding thousands of non-farming people is an impossibility. But there is a massive paradox. A farmer has to go out to the field every day. If 10,000 farmers all live together in a city, then most of them will have to walk an extremely long distance to reach their land. Therefore, if considering purely agricultural economics, humans tend to spread out to live closer to the fields rather than gathering together. If agriculture prefers dispersion, then what was strong enough to pull everyone back together? That is when surplus created a miracle called specialization. If 100 farmers can produce enough food for 120 people, the remaining 20 people do not need to spend all their time farming anymore. They can become potters, metal blacksmiths, builders, merchants, scribes, priests, soldiers, or administrators. A village produces almost everything it needs by itself, but a city becomes powerful when people stop producing the exact same things. Better agriculture feeds the specialists. Specialists create better tools. Better tools increase productivity, and so there are even more people who can become specialists. And this is the early network effect. A potter in a village of 50 people will not have many customers. But in a settlement of 10,000 people, the market is much larger. Crowding creates customers. Customers attract even more other craftsmen, and excellent craftsmen continue to attract even more new customers. When there is a sufficient number of people gathered in one place, that population itself turns into a resource. Let us travel to southern Mesopotamia in the 4th millennium before Christ. Uruk became a giant economic machine. Here you see monumental architecture, a dense population, specialized production, long-distance trade networks, and record-keeping management technology. Uruk was no longer just many houses placed next to each other. It had become a smoothly operating system. However, saying that Uruk invented the city is also too simple. Archaeological evidence in northern Mesopotamia shows that settlements there also developed urban characteristics along completely separate trajectories. The city probably was not invented just once. Humanity might have continuously discovered different reasons to live crowded together. A village needs things that are not locally available: stone, metal, wood, volcanic glass, or luxury materials. Long-distance trade becomes much easier when there are central connection points. The city becomes the place where routes intersect. A merchant does not need to tiredly knock on the door of every farm. They just need to go straight to the central market of the city. The city does not just concentrate people, it concentrates connections. But humans did not just gather for money or trade, they also gathered for deities. A massive gathering area could begin to form around temples, ancestral tombs, religious rituals, or seasonal festivals. In the Andes Mountains of South America, sacred sites and periodic ritual gatherings were the magnetic pull drawing people to the centers. They were lands that became economically important simply because they previously held an incredibly important spiritual meaning. And of course, safety is also a great anchor. An isolated household living in the middle of nowhere is very vulnerable to being looted. But 1,000 people living behind a city wall with a defending army and an early warning system is certainly safer than 100 scattered farms. However, as the city expanded, human memory officially shut down. The city had to track grain quantities, allocate labor, land, livestock, taxes, and storage warehouses. A village head could easily remember all the information of 10 households, but 10,000 households is something no single brain can contain. The city created a massive information crisis, forcing humans to ultimately invent new ways to remember, which were writing and the bureaucratic system. The city gave birth to the administrative apparatus. The administrative apparatus gave birth to records, and records provided more capacity to manage an even larger city. But at this point, there is a reversal of the issue with a strong political tone. We often hear the familiar story that people moved to the city because the city offered a better life. That might be partly true, but the city simultaneously created a ruling elite class, taxes, forced labor obligations, stratification, and strict control. The city could make cooperation more productive, but it also made humans easier to count, easier to tax, and easier to rule over. Not stopping there, living in crowded conditions created a biological nightmare. Dense settlements were ideal environments for polluted water sources, intestinal parasites, the transmission of infectious diseases, rat plagues, and the accumulation of massive garbage. Humans, animals, water sources, and waste mixed together to create a paradise for pathogens. If ancient cities made diseases spread more easily and reduced lifespans, then why did humans not abandon them? That is exactly the most ironic paradox of development. The city could be cramped, unequal, disease-ridden, and full of dangers. But it also had jobs, food distribution, markets, protection, partners, knowledge, and countless opportunities to change one's life. A city does not need to be a comfortable place to survive. It only needs to provide something valuable enough that you would find it very difficult to find anywhere else. There was no single formula for the birth of cities. In Mesopotamia, it was trade and record management. In the Indus River Valley, it was urban planning and infrastructure. In Mesoamerica, the city was deeply tied to rituals and political identity. Humanity never discovered a single formula to build a city. Different societies simply gathered the same basic ingredients, but in completely different proportions. An abandoned city with no people, no matter how magnificent the city walls are, is still just a pile of ruins. A true city must be operated by surging flows. The flow of people, food, water sources, information, goods, labor power, and authority. A city is not simply thousands of houses placed next to each other. It is thousands of mutual dependencies. So, ultimately, why did humans build cities? Let us return to the farmer at the beginning of the story. This time, he is standing looking into the center of the city. There are blacksmiths, merchants, priests, builders, and soldiers. Agriculture helped humanity to stay in one place, but agriculture alone could not create the city. The city appeared when the crowded concentration itself began to generate value on its own. One person came to trade, another person came for the sacred temple, another came to find a job or seek safety, and a king appeared out of a desire for power. And so every new person who stepped in made that land more valuable for the people who came after. Humanity built cities because living closely together allowed humans to specialize, exchange goods, organize defense, practice rituals, and coordinate a complex society in ways that scattered households could never do. But there was no single moment of genius. There was no single first cause. Humanity built cities when we accidentally discovered a strange truth. That is, although living with thousands of strangers creates countless, massive troubles, those exact strangers become the biggest reason making this place completely worth dedicating our whole lives to live in.